Morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Dairy Raid. And it's been a while since we've done one of these walk and talk videos. I think the last one we did was the Whatever Happened to Nick Evers video. So today we're gonna talk about some of the stories coming out of week 1 of fall camp for the Badgers and kind of take stock of what transpired last week and looking forward to what's happening going forward in camp. Also going to kind of pepper in some questions that I got from you guys that actually tie in very well to some of the talking points that I already had ready for today, so that should go well. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the receiver room and some encouraging signs that we've heard from Kenny Guyton and some encouraging things that we've seen in the little bit of video that has emerged from fall camp. The first thing that I've noticed by watching our receivers running routes, and you don't see much, see a little bit of drills, you see a little bit of one-on-ones, and you see a little bit of more open team situations, is one of the things that I harped on going into fall camp that we needed to see, and that is more physicality at the line, exploding out of our stances better, and pressing the ball vertically. Especially from guys like CJ Williams, who's somebody that Kenny Guyton actually commented on and saying that he was a lot happier with the physicality that he was showing so far in camp. You're also seeing it from the receivers when they're running or when they're blocking. They're they seem a lot more willing to get in there and make contact, which is something that I don't think we saw a lot of last year, especially from the outside receivers. Guys like Chimray, guys like CJ Williams just did not welcome contact. So I'm really happy that we are seeing the receivers. Remember that football is a contact sport, and that is really going to help us expand the passing game and force defenses to cover the whole field, which is something they really didn't have to do last year, which leads into our first question for this week's video. And I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have it in front of me, but and I'll put the quote up right here. With the offense improving this year, where would you rather see the improvement? In the longer vertical passing game or in the shorter intermediate quick game? And it starts from the top down. The whole offense, the whole idea of the air raid in terms of the passing game is creating both a horizontal and a vertical stretch. And last year we really only created the horizontal stretch, which is why, Will Pauling was open a lot, and was also why within 2 steps he had a safety coming downhill on him. So we have to see an improvement in the vertical passing game. We have to have our offense create threats up the seam, up the sideline, to deepen the upper half of the defense. By doing that, that creates more space underneath for the underneath routes, but then also creates more opportunities for run after the catch, which is another point that Kenny Guyton talked about in his media availability, was that they want to work on building the rack. And I totally agree. But that can be created by having more space. by spreading out the defense and making it easier for our receivers to create that yak, rack, whatever. And we'll build from there. So definitely we need to see the vertical passing game become a threat. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to go out there and bomb the ball 25 times a game. But the threat is there enough that defenses are going to play a higher shell and dedicate more players to the shell than what they've been doing now, which has essentially been man-to-man, and we're going to put one guy over the top and let him spy the QB. So that's a step forward that I want to see them make going into the second week of fall camp. And hopefully we're going to see more emerge from the passing game in terms of film clips or anything like that, and we can see if that's what's actually going on. So next thing that I want to talk about is Tawee Walker. When I first watched his highlights and I did my breakdown video of his clips from Oklahoma, which you can watch right here, the one thing that stood out to me watching Tawee Walker run is the fact that he never goes down with the first hit. His center of gravity is built so low and his frame is built so perfectly for this style of running back that he has the short space burst that you're looking for from a running back in a system like this. He might not have the top end speed. Ches has got that for sure. But he has that short level burst where he can get going and get to his full speed as quickly as possible, which also means he is way more likely to deflect contact than a more longer striding running back who takes a little bit more time. And we have seen that in the clips that have come out of him blowing up first and second level defenders and carrying guys like Hunter Wohler into the end zone. Now I know, I just said that out loud. People are going to be commenting they're in spider pads. Okay, we're not seeing them go full speed. Yes, I agree. I'm not getting too excited. We're going to talk about getting excited about spider pad hits later. But you can just see it in the mentality of how Tawee runs, where he's not seeking contact, but he knows how to give and to take contact. And that is, it's a little thing, but you're going to see that add a yard, 2 yards, 3 yards onto every one of his runs in comparison to what we've seen in the past. I can ask you a question with this. With a running back who runs like that, if we had Tawee Walker on that 4th and 1 against Iowa, did we lose yards? For as big a back as Braylon was, he sure had a tendency to get knocked on his ass in short yardage situations because he's built different. Okay, he needs that long stride space to get up to speed. Tawee doesn't. And then when he gets hit, he's going to bounce off for an extra couple of yards. Which leads to the next question, and that is, with the emergence of Tawee Walker, do we think that he might supplant Ches as the number 1 back in the Wisconsin offense? And that's a good question. But I think the easy answer is I don't think there is going to be a true number one back in the Wisconsin offense. I think there is going to be a 1A and a 1B, and I think Ches and Tawee are going to be that. They're going to complement each other, but more importantly, it's going to allow Phil Longo and Coach Spalding to ride the hot hand. I think they wanted to do that last year with Ches and Braylon, and we saw instances where they played both of them. Ches was more consistent. He got a few more reps after that, and it kind of built from there. But another reason why I think they're going to be thinking more 1A and 1B and less feature back. And then number two is we don't want to end up where we were last year, where the running back rotation and the running back room, and it's been like this at Wisconsin for years, that there's a feature back in everybody else. And when the offense gets on the field, it runs through that feature back. And when you run through a feature back, that's great if he can stay healthy. But in the case of Braylon Allen, who was never quite healthy last year, he was always dinged up. And Chez Mellusi going down with a season-ending injury early in the year, you essentially had nobody ready and in position to carry the load as a feature back, as a number one back in a situation like that after the number one has gone down. And what ended up happening is when we had to build the offense from a running back perspective around Jackson Aker and Katie Akimelli, they weren't ready. So I like what we're seeing now is we're hearing a lot about the young guys. And we should get excited that we're hearing the young guys because that means they think they're ready to get into the game. Darian Dupree, Dylan Jones are having their moments. It's awesome. But what that also means is they are deepening the room. So in case number one, number two goes down, whatever, they have a committee behind it, ready to go. This also means that they can be clever and be able to get Darren Dupree, Dylan Jones, and Giddy Atuka a lot of reps between the three of them and potentially still preserve their red shirts. They can play 4 games plus the bowl game and still preserve a red shirt. And we're saying in this day and age, does red shirts matter? Until proven otherwise, yes, they do. So I think they can build the room with that in mind and have a 3-headed monster consolidated into one back and get that back in the rotation. So that's a long way to come back to the original question. Will Tawee Walker overtake Chez Mellusi in the number one back role? Maybe in terms of total touches, but not in terms of number one on the depth chart. I think until Chez proves that he can't be in the rotation, he's still going to be the lead back. That doesn't say anything because I still think Tawee Walker is going to get more touches. All right. And then finally, let's talk about the quarterbacks. And of course, the big bugaboo in camp this year so far has been, we're a week in and they still haven't named a starter. What are we going to do that they haven't named a starter? It's been a week. Shouldn't they have named a starter by now? To that, I'm going to say, nobody's forcing Luke Fickell and Phil Longo to name a starter. So they are not going to actively give out that information unless they have to. You know, we're going to see when we get later into the year where the depth charts come into play that are, I believe they're mandated by the Big Ten, that they have to release a depth chart. That's where you see a lot of the ands and the ors. So we're a week into fall camp. They don't have to release a depth chart, so they won't. That being said, does it concern me that they haven't named a starter yet? No, because it's still early in camp. Also, like, one thing that people really have to understand with this is if they go out and name a starter in the first week of camp, and let's say that starter is Braden Locke, you are giving your opponents 3 extra weeks to focus on nailing down what they're doing. So as a football coach, you don't want to give your opponents any extra information that they don't already have. So while the consensus opinion is that Tyler Van Dyke will emerge as the starter, and I totally agree with that, by not naming him earlier than is mandated or is necessary, you're helping yourself as a team. As petty and as stupid as you might think that is. Also, Braden Locke is having a good camp. He had a good spring. It would be better for the program that they keep pushing him and giving him the opportunity to win the job than they would saying, contest is over already, you're the backup. It changes how he approaches the season. It changes how the room settles in for the season. But more importantly, it allows him to just relax. When you give him the glimmer of hope that he could be the starter, he's going to keep working his ass off until he's not the starter. He thinks he's a starter until he's not the starter. And that's how it should be. But when we listen to the coaches talk and we listen to the media who have seen the competition firsthand, they all agree that Braden Locke is having a good camp. But one key thing that I hear from Phil Longo is, and this goes into last year, this is a talking point that really ties into last season, and that is Tyler Van Dyke has that special arm strength that allows him to make decisions late, to fit the ball into tighter windows, to take more chances. And that might seem like a negative because it might seem like, oh, he is going to take chances that he doesn't need to. He is going to be reckless. Maybe. But looking back on last season and some of the decision making and the caution cautionary decision making that both Braden did and definitely Tanner Mordecai did. I think we had quarterbacks last year that were worried about taking chances and weren't confident enough in their arm strength to fit the ball into tighter windows. Okay? Being able to be late allows you to see more. It's not just being slow with the decision making. It allows you to be more calculated with your decision making. So the fact that we have a quarterback that the coaching staff agrees has the arm strength and the arm talent to fit the ball into tighter windows in situations where it's needed, it's an improvement on last season. And that's telling us that they want to be able to push the ball a bit more downfield. And that is where Tyler Van Dyke will separate himself. When they start getting into more live situations and he starts making decisions that were passed up upon last season. You know, everyone complained about, oh, we throw too many checkdowns. Okay, well, the checkdowns are there because the quarterback does not believe the receivers are open higher up in the route structure. By believing that, they go to the check down instead of forcing a ball in a bad situation or taking an incomplete pass. Now they think Tyler Van Dyke has the arm strength to fit the ball in those tight windows, and then maybe we won't be checking the ball down as much. I still don't understand what people's negative thoughts are with the check down. Would you rather throw an interception? Would you rather throw an incomplete pass? Or would you rather turn 0 yards into 1 yard? It's a simple yes or no question. Would you rather have 1 yard or no yards? Same. So that's the quarterbacks. Do I think there's a competition? No. Tyler Van Dyke will be the starter. They want him to be the starter. They're positioning him to be the starter. But they're making sure that Braden Locke doesn't stop thinking that he's a starter, doesn't start preparing like he's a starter, and making sure they know what the offense has in Braden Locke if Tyler Van Dyke goes down, which he has been injured in the past, and we saw it last year with Tanner Mordecai. So there we are with the quarterbacks. Last thing that we'll go through, one last question, another good one, is talking about, in summary, the flexibility of the receiver room and moving guys from specifically more from the inside to the outside. Do I see that happening? And they're thinking about it as ways to get Tretch on the field more. I don't think that's going to be an issue, getting Tretch on the field more. I think as much as they're holding Will Pauling back right now to keep him fresh, Tretch Kakahuna is they're going to be 1A, 1B at the slot position, which, like we've talked about before, is going to lead them to use more 10 personnel, but they're going to find ways to get them both on the field. Is one of those ways moving one of them outside? I think yes, because this is more a this week talking point, but it ties in because I'm sure they ran this last week. We caught a couple glimpses, and if you look on YouTube and you find some of the clips of them running some passing plays in a Skelly situation, you saw a couple plays where Tretch was playing on the outside, on the single receiver side. And I think that's something that they'll do. Essentially what you'll be doing is you're in a trips formation and you have two slots and a tight end on the field and then a single wide receiver. That's something I could definitely see them doing with Tretch. So I think they want to keep things relatively stable and keeping guys in their specific positions. But you're already hearing that they're starting to get more versatile with their personnel packages. They're starting to use different personnel packages. And I think having a 10 personnel type setup or an 11 type personnel setup with 2 slot receivers on the field and one of them playing outside, certainly it does not go against the realm of possibilities. So, all right, well, just getting to my field now. Decided to work from the office today instead of work from my living room. So I think this is where we're going to naturally wrap up our video for today. And gonna try to do another one of these, next week. Talk about what happened this week in camp. Once we start getting into the flow of the season, might try to do one of these a little bit more often. These are great things to throw up on the podcast feed, which if you haven't done so already, check that out on your favorite podcasting app. I think they're on all of them. And you can get the audio versions of this if you like hearing me talk, which God knows why you would want to do that. But yeah, so a little more like this, a little more stream of conscious, and just kind of letting you guys know what I see, what I feel, and how the Badgers are doing. So that'll be it for this week. We'll see you next time.